Little Shigehiko is on his way to the hospital, eager to show his terminally ill mother, Ryoko, his self-made project. However, Ryoko is on her deathbed. Her husband, Shigeharu, stays beside her during her final moments, but by the time Shigehiko arrives, Ryoko has already passed away. It's been 7 years since Shigeharu lost his wife. Life goes on, and the father-son duo has adjusted to a life without Ryoko. However, seeing his dad alone, Shigehiko suggests that his dad gets remarried, surprising Shigeharu. Shigeharu thinks about it for a long time. A few days later, Shigeharu meets with his friend Yoshikawa, a film producer. Over drinks, Shigeharu shares his desire to remarry, expressing his hope to find someone as talented as Ryoko. Yoshikawa suggests organizing a pseudo-audition to cast a young woman to play Shigeharu's wife in a film project. However, the real objective of the audition is to help Shigeharu actually find a new wife. Despite some initial hesitation, Shigeharu warms up to the idea and soon finds himself surprisingly eager about the prospect of wife shopping via an audition of all things. That evening, he looks at the pictures of all the women who have signed up for the audition, and his excitement bubbles. So he turns Ryoko's photo to face the other way to avoid feeling guilty. Tasked with selecting 30 candidates, Shigeharu is sifting through applications when Asami Yamazaki's photo captures his attention. Intrigued by her story of a career-ending ballet accident, he's reminded of Ryoko, stirring his interest further. It's the day of the audition. Both Shigeharu and Yoshikawa are having a good time and taking it lightly until it's Asami's turn. Shigeharu has been looking forward to this, and unlike with other women, Shigeharu takes the initiative to talk to Asami. During the break, Shigeharu confesses he likes Asami, but Yoshikawa has his doubts. He can't point out what it is, but he doesn't like her. Shigeharu couldn't care less and later that night calls Asami to arrange another meeting. Right after hanging up, Shigeharu's phone rings again. It's Yoshikawa who tells Shigeharu that he tried calling the record company that Asami had referenced in her audition to cross-check and found the director of the company has been missing for over a year now. Yoshikawa smells trouble, but Shigeharu, smitten by Asami, decides to dive headfirst into the mystery. The next day, Shigeharu meets Asami, who apologizes for lying about being associated with the record company, as without one, she wouldn't have been considered. As if that wasn't a red flag, Shigeharu ignores it, just like everyone ignores the terms and conditions page. Later, he meets Yoshikawa, who tells him that he can't reach any of the references Asami had mentioned, deepening his doubts about Asami. No one seems to know Asami, but Shigeharu dismisses his concerns and assures he won't be fooled that easily. Somewhere in the city, Asami lives in a tiny apartment. She only has a few things, including a large sack and a telephone. She sits perfectly still beside the phone, anticipating a call. It's been some days that Shigeharu hasn't called Asami because of his promise to Yoshikawa. Strangely, she hasn't moved from her position all these days, which has made her posture unnatural. But one day, Shigeharu gives in to his desire and calls Asami. The phone finally rings and Asami picks up, acting as if she wasn't expecting a call from him, completely disregarding the huge sack that starts rolling around the room. They go on a date, and Shigeharu tells her that she didn't get the main part in the movie. But Asami doesn't mind and explains she's glad she got to meet Shigeharu. After that, several dates follow and they get to know each other better. After a few days, Shigeharu feels he should tell Shigehiko that he's going to propose to Asami. Shigehiko doesn't mind that Asami is just 24, as long as his father's happy and wishes him the best. The couple plan a getaway trip for the weekend. They stay in a seaside hotel where Shigeharu plans to propose to her. Feeling nervous after months of no practice, Shigeharu is moved when Asami confidently undresses and reveals her burn scars, asking for his acceptance and exclusivity in love, which he promises before they do the deed in the darkness. The next morning, Shigeharu wakes alone in bed. He seems to be in a daze. He soon gets a call from the front desk informing him that Asami has left. Shigeharu returns to work and meets Yoshikawa to inform him that Asami ghosted him after spending the night. And now she isn't answering his calls, and he doesn't really know where she lives. He asks Yoshikawa's help to locate Asami, but Yoshikawa advises him to forget about her. Feeling pathetic about the whole scenario but still blinded by love, Shigeharu pledges to find Asami himself. So he starts contacting everybody Asami has mentioned in her resume, starting with her ballet studio. He reaches the location but finds its entrance blocked. He squeezes himself inside and finds a man with prosthetic feet in a wheelchair. Upon asking Asami's whereabouts, the man bizarrely inquires if Shigeharu has seen or touched Asami. It's revealed this man caused Asami's childhood burn scars. Realizing the good-for-nothing man's inability to assist, Shigeharu quickly departs. Next, he visits the bar Asami said she worked in and finds a stack of newspapers lying under the door as if it's been closed for a while. As suspected, a man passing by tells Shigeharu that the bar has been closed for a year now, as the owner was offed. It was gruesome because the perpetrator cut him up. But when the police put his body parts back, they found 3 extra fingers, an extra ear, and an extra tongue. The details the man gives are so gruesome that Shigeharu can almost see them wiggling in a pool of blood. Meanwhile, Asami invites herself to Shigeharu's house in his absence, and after his cook leaves, she goes inside and in Shigeharu's bedroom finds a picture of Ryoko. This enrages Asami and she decides to drug Shigeharu's liquor. That evening, Shigeharu returns to an empty home because Shigehiko is at a friend's house. Shigeharu pours a glass of liquor for himself, and after drinking a few sips, he starts feeling weird. He tries getting up, but soon passes out because of the drug. In an unconscious state, Shigeharu dreams about his date with Asami, where everything is the same, but what she says when asked about her parents change. On the initial date, she said she comes from a simple yet happy family, but now she says she comes from an abusive family and narrates all the torture she had to endure. He suddenly finds himself on another date with Asami when he sees Ryoko and a young Shigehiko sitting at an adjacent table. Shigeharu tries introducing Asami to Ryoko, but Ryoko warns him Asami is not good for him. Stuck amidst a never-ending nightmare, he stumbles upon a big sack. Upon checking, he gets the scare of his life when it starts moving. From it, a man crawls out who has 3 fingers and both his feet missing, and he sounds like he's gagging because he's also missing a tongue. The man begs for food, but Shigeharu covers his mouth to keep himself from throwing up. However, Asami, who is standing behind Shigeharu, throws up in a dog bowl and gives it to the man, who gobbles it down. The nightmare doesn't stop there, and suddenly the man with prosthetic feet appears to torture Asami again, and Asami willingly lets him burn her. But once he's back in the studio, Asami slits his throat using a wire saw before decapitating him. Shigeharu finds himself on his living room floor, still drugged. He sees Asami clad in an apron and gloves as she has just finished disposing of her first victim for the night, Shigeharu's beloved dog. She walks into the room with a bag, and after filling an injection, she walks towards Shigeharu, telling him that she has paralyzed his body but his nerves still have feeling. So he'll feel everything she does to him. She takes the needle and injects Shigeharu's tongue with it, making him whimper. She then brings out a human-sized sack just like she had in her apartment and spreads it out for Shigeharu. She's upset because they called her for the audition but didn't give her the main role. Instead, Shigeharu slept with her, and now she has come to take revenge on him just like she did with every man who took advantage of her. Asami cuts open his clothes, and after disinfecting him, she starts embedding his body with needles, giving him a personal acupuncture treatment. She doesn't stop at his stomach but extends the treatment to underneath his eyes. She can't tolerate Shigeharu loving anybody else, even his son, and reminds him of the promise he made to her that he'll only love her. She intends to keep him all to herself and prevent him from escaping. She plans to cut off his feet just like she did to her previous victims. She ties an iron brace to one of his feet and using a wire saw she severs it while maniacally laughing. She's about to start on the other foot when Shigehiko returns home. Asami prepares for him and hides. When Shigehiko walks into the living room, he's shocked to see his dad's plight. Suddenly, Asami ambushes him from behind. Shigeharu, in and out of consciousness, finds himself back in the resort with Asami by his side. She accepts his proposal, but Shigeharu doesn't remember proposing to her. He drifts back to sleep and wakes to the reality that Asami has cut off his foot, and he's dangling between life and death. He tries to alert Shigehiko, who takes the hint and ducks before Asami can pepper spray him. He runs upstairs and Asami runs behind him and catches him. But Shigehiko kicks her, which makes Asami lose her balance, and she falls down the stairs, breaking her neck. Shigehiko runs to his dad, who tells him to call the police, which he does frantically. In Asami's final moments, she looks at Shigeharu and tries to justify her actions. Shigeharu stares at her as she takes her last breath, knowing he barely escaped a life of torture. That's a wrap for today's horror recap of the movie Audition. Don't call Asame. Instead, tap the subscribe button to steer clear of her and hit the bell icon to stay informed and dodge any future disastrous dates.